Today we will talk about chapter 2, and remember in chapter 2 we will be using the idea or the concept of limits. Limits simply means that as you're coming closer and closer to the value of x, what is the corresponding value in y? It comes closer and closer to y. We called it L. Now, today we'll talk about how to find the derivatives, how to differentiate. We know the rules. إنه السين تربيع بتساوي 2 سين x power 5 بتساوي 5x4, but we need to find the differentiation, or we need to find the derivative by using what we've learned in chapter 1. We call it the limits definition. If we use the limit definition, then we are able to differentiate anything in the future by shortcuts. Some other people, they call it or by first principles. In Arabic, المبادئ الأولية. In order to understand all of this, I'm not going to go through how do we find that rule. Which rule? The rule that says, this is a function. If you want to find its derivative, remember, I can give you any function you will in life. F of x equals y. This dash means the first derivative. If I wrote it in terms of y, we call it dy dx. If I wrote it in terms of f, then I should say f of x little dash in here. This means the first derivative. How can I find the first derivative? The rule, by basic things. You're going to apply the area of the limit. Remember what we say here? As x approaches 2, x approaches 3, minus 2, 0, whatever. This time it's going to say the value of the corresponding value of y after a little increment h minus the original function. Because the distance of y is different between them, so we can call it h. And here we say where h approaches 0. Some people say, where do you get this rule from? Well, simply remember, if we done before, that if we took in physics, if I know the distance rule, I can find its derivative to find the speed. We've learned that before. And if I take the second derivative, s double dash, or derivative of the speed, we will find something called derivative t squared. What is it? 2. 2 times 9, 18t. These are called derivatives. Derivatives are so helpful. They can find for us in engineering lots of good things. That's why we have another word for it called rate of change. And whenever we say the word rate of change in the future in engineering physics, an engineering course, it's the change in the y over the change of x. But since we're talking about an application, rate means where you do change in time. It could be change in speed, could be change in acceleration, change in power, change in force, change, anything with direction. And if you notice any one of those, simply the second minus the first, which we call the initial value and the final value, divided by the second minus the first. But how can we apply this concept that we took it before into that one? Well, this is called actually the first, or in the initial value. This is y2. After a certain distance, or a certain time, then this is called fx of h, y2. So y1 in here minus y2 and divided by what? The difference between the x's, I'm going to call it h. I know if you go to your textbook, you will find more details. But I am sure we won't need to go in depth in that topic. I just want to show you how can you find the derivative, any derivative, especially for who? For polynomials. X power 2, x power 3, x power 4. I can do anything I want. X only. So, this is called chapter 2. in order to understand what we need to do, you are very lucky that we're going to use certain steps, and without these steps, it's not going to work. So let me introduce something for you. Let me give an example. An example comes to my mind. Let's call it example 1. Let's say f of x equals x squared minus 5x plus 2. What is the question? Find the derivative. I'm going to clean the question after I write it. Find the derivative of f of x. What's the symbol of that? Like this. This is called the derivative of the function f of x by using the limit definition is there, or by using first principles, المبادئ الأولية أو مفهوم النهاية. Okay, to do that we need to have some good background of what we learned the first time and what we learned in Math 1. 3 things we need to apply. Can I clear the question? So, in order to find the rule, which rule, if I want to apply that rule, make sure you know how to use it. You will not say in the exam, can you give me the rule you want? It's f of x plus h minus the initial value divided by h. That's your rule. Alright? So, since I'm having that one, let me develop what is fx plus h. So what are you going to do? You're going to substitute x for x plus h. Wherever you see x, take it away and put x plus h. Second step, finished. I have that question given. I make up this. I substitute instead of x plus h. My third step is to find the difference between x plus h minus f of x. Use those. But by the way, can I expand this one? Some people will say x squared plus h squared. هذا الناس اللي بيخترعوا creative people. No. My advice, if you see x plus h squared, think about it like that. That's what you learn in Math 1. Expand the bracket. Then what you get? X squared plus xh plus h vx or xh plus h squared. There are 2 similar terms. So what's going to be x squared? We have 2xh plus h squared. You better remember that because we can use it a lot. So you have a mistake here. You have missing 2xh. So if you want to expand the first one, you will have to say x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Exactly like that one. And when you expand the bracket here, minus times 5, minus 5x or minus 5h. And what's left? That's plus 2. I'm going to take all of this, substitute it for that. All right? So, x squared plus 2xh plus h squared minus 5x minus 5h minus actually plus 2. I've done the first one, this one. Minus what? Minus the original function. What's the original function? X squared minus 5x plus 2. Many people will forget this bracket. So do not forget it. If you forget, you will have everything wrong at the end. If you expand the bracket, what happens? This will stay the same. Nothing will cancel out so far. But when you expand the bracket, minus x squared minus 3 minus a plus 5x, and guess what? Everything in the bracket should disappear. The minus 2 with the plus 2, plus 5 with the minus 5, minus x squared with this x squared. Now take it as a fact, as a common sense, as default. Whatever in the bracket in a polynomial should cancel out on the spot. So what we've got left, Let me write what's left for me. I have 2xh minus 5h and only 2. Wow. So let me now apply the rule. What is the rule? I wrote it for you in the top. The rule in here, to find the derivative by using the limit of f of x plus h minus f of x over h, where h approaches 0. Let's substitute all the numerator. What do we have in the numerator? In the numerator, we had this much. And we had minus 5h over what? H. I forgot to put here the limit. H goes to 0. Now, should I cancel this with that or with this? I can't. Should I put the 0 here? But if you put the 0, remember we said before, whatever you write that divide by 0, what's the answer? Does not exist. So we must do something to help ourselves. What was it? Let's take common factor. So factorization is important no matter what you say. If I take common factor from the top, what's left? 2x minus 5. How? 2x divided by h, 2x. 5h divided by h, 5. This will cancel out. So what's left for us? We have the limit of 2x minus 5 as h goes to 0. Now, is there an h in here? No. So your derivative, if there's an h here inside, not outside, substitute 0. So the derivative in this case, it's going to be, there's nothing to substitute here. I could substitute here, but I will have does not exist. But here, no more h. So I cannot substitute. So there's nothing there. So the final answer is 2x minus 5. That's, I think, it's a medium question, but it's straightforward. If you have a problem with expanding the bracket, if you expand the bracket here, these are the little mistakes that people do here. People can do here mistakes. They forget to expand the bracket right. People sometimes they forget to take common factor. Because if you take common factor, you will have it has to cross out. If this doesn't cross out, then your answer will be it does not exist, even though it exists. Why? Because you don't know how to use factorization. All right, I spent 15 minutes on such a question. Why don't I do a higher level question? Don't forget, this question is a polynomial. Polynomial means what? It means there's an x squared or x cubed or whatever you want. Let's take another example. I'm looking at chapter 2. Chapter 2, you have two what? 2 worksheets. So you can look them up. Sometimes, I give you a question like that. Or sometimes your function is like this. Sometimes we forget about these things. Or even simple like that. You could see any of those. I know they're called quadratic, but you have a problem. You have to know how to expand the bracket. You have to know how to expand the bracket. You should be able to expand the bracket. Once you expand those, it should come out in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Watch out. If any one of those, you could put it like this, you are safe home. You can do it anyway. But sometimes people don't listen, don't attend, don't see the video, don't come to class, and then they say, how come I get it wrong? I'm sorry. You have hour and a half every day. Please come to class. All right, gentlemen. Let's take another example and let's make it a little bit funny. What do you mean by funny? Let's say we have a function f of x. I'm going to put x cubed. I'm going to put negative 2. أنا حر. I can do anything I wish. Minus 7x. I could put square. I don't want it. I want to make it a bit harder with cube. And if you wish, plus 3. So what's my question? To find the third derivative by using the limits rule or the first principles. So what is the first step? we need to make sure how we can find this. Fx of h. You're going to substitute wherever there's an x with an x plus h. So negative 2, x plus h to the power 3. I take it away, put this instead. Minus 7, take the 6x and put x plus 7 plus 3. No problem, we can expand the bracket. But I can tell you now, some people should have a problem. In what? In expanding this. I know that this is this, sorry, to power 3. To expand that one, you know it's like this, times itself 3 times. Oh my God. Anyway, I did this already there. So x squared plus 2xh plus h squared times x plus h. You can apply the rule all the way. Otherwise, there's a nice rule. Cube the first plus the 3. Square the second by the first plus square the second h by the x. Look, 1 squared by h, 1 x by, and then cube the last. I don't mind you memorize it because it's easy when you practice. You will not forget it. So let's substitute. What did they find? I have this. I'm going to substitute that one there. X cubed plus 3x squared h plus 3xh squared and plus what? H cubed. All right, gentlemen. What's left? Oh, I've got that one. Minus 7xh, sorry, 7th x, 7x, 7th h minus 7h plus 3. All right. Now, let me apply the rule. What rule? The one for first principles. To find the derivative, I have to find the limit as h approaches 0. For who? For f of x plus h minus f of x and all to be divided by h. Let me substitute each one of those in here. I'm making less steps. The limit of h goes to 0. All right? Big bracket. I need to get rid of that, I'm sure. You will see in a minute. Let's expand the bracket and put it here. 2 times x minus 2 times 3 minus 2 times 3x minus 2 times x cubed and continue by copying that one. This is only what? Fx plus h. Well, minus what? Fx. Remember the definition? Minus 2x cubed minus 7x plus 3. Remember the trick I told you? What is the trick? Everything inside the bracket should cancel out. You don't believe me? Let's try it out. What's minus v minus? Plus 4. Is there a minus 4? Sorry, minus v minus plus 2x cubed. Is there any here plus? So this one minus goes with the plus because minus times minus, it's a plus. Remember that thing. Minus times minus 7 plus 7. Do I have minus 7 somewhere? Yes. I told you. Do you trust me if I just cross this out without thinking? Minus times 3 is minus 3. There's a plus 3 here. So gentlemen, I saved a step. I don't have to expand. I need to make sure I am good with this. I need to make sure I'm good with that. If you remember these by practice, even though you took them in grade 8 in school bil Arabic, I know that, you know that, but we forget. So now, this what's left, why don't I apply the rule that take a common factor? So at this step, take the highest common factor. Some people say, I never knew that one. No, you can remember that one. So the limit of h as h approaches 0, I have minus 6x squared h. If I take h common factor, y, it should cancel out later on. But let's do step by step. What's left? What's 6x divided by, minus 6x h, because h squared divided by h, there's one h left. Got it? What else? H cubed divided by h squared. And 7h divided by h is 7. And guess what? Wow. So it's gotta go, man. So what's left with us? We are having this. The limit of minus 6x squared minus 6xh minus 2h squared minus 7 divided by nothing, by the way, nothing. And if there is an h in the denominator, يا زيد ما غزيت كل شغلنا ما له معنى, where h approaches 0. So gentlemen, let's substitute 0 here and 0 there. What is 6 times 0? 6x times 0 is 0. So the final answer, when we substitute 0 in the h's, we will have this. No h. 6h times 0, 0. 2 times 0, also 0. Actually, you don't need to write it down. And minus 7 left. What is that expression for? This expression is for the first derivative of that function by using first principles or by using the limit definition. Actually, it makes more sense because the limit definition says if you have h in the denominator, you're going to have something called doesn't exist, does not exist. In order to exist, it's better that you take common factor here. It will cancel out with there. So whatever left in that bracket, wherever there's an h, plug it 0. Substitute, عوض. فهذه باي باي وهذه باي باي. That's the final answer. Okay, gentlemen, if you write these things and in the exam you forgot to put this will lose 2 marks. If you forgot the limit at each step, you will lose mark because math is logic. If you don't write this and you say, oh, that was a stupid mistake, I'm sorry, sir, but I forgot. You can forget, it's up to you, but you lose marks here. So make sure, do not make up something of your mind. Some people do not put an arrow. They do like this. I know h equals 0 when I substitute, but you should understand from the first chapter, it means as h approaches to 0 from the right or left, as if it's equal to 0. So you cannot put as equal here. If you put it, you lose a mark, 2 marks, depends on me. So don't waste your time by saying, can I do that? No, just do it exactly what I say. All right, guys. I think this topic is done. We will discuss, inshallah, very soon this week. If you wish to, it's already been copied. You can stop your video and go back and see it again and again. Let me put for you a couple questions as a homework. And my advice, do them. And if you want to ask me about it, ask me in class, if you wish. عادي, حقك. You are paying for it, so you better ask me if you wish. Or solve it and send it to me. Or if you don't want to waste your time, solve it, and if you have a problem, call me. Use your teams, because sometimes we are shy to do that. Let me put for you 3 to 4 examples as a practice. So let's call them practice questions. First one, you have a function called, I want to call it h of x. Why should I call it f of x? I can call anything I want. 2, x minus 3, and x plus 1. You know what you have to do. You got to expand the bracket. Number 2. Let's say I have a function called g of x. X cubed plus x squared plus x. Simple, silly question. Oh, we forgot the basic function, linear function. I know the answer is common sense, but how about if I say 3 minus 2x? This is linear, the power 1. This is cubic, this is quadratic. Some people, they do this. Let's call this wx. You have a function, x over 2. So silly. Some people don't understand x over 2 means half x. This is confusing people. Why? They are not good with algebra. So gentlemen, you don't need any more than these polynomials. I know there are questions with fraction, with logarithms, with exponential, with sine. What is the derivative of these? These will come next week. But here I'm discussing some basic concept. We can develop it. If you are a math major, you will have to develop a lot. How about a function with a square root? Oh, how about a function when we have len x minus 3? How about a function if we have x minus 2 over 3 minus 2x? This is fraction, rational function. I know how about a function that comes with sine 3x? We can develop these by using first principles, but this is beyond our domain for this course. But next week, we will use rules of differentiation. This is chapter 3. In that one, we will teach you all the rules and then put them together to show you some methods of differentiation. All right? I think I'll stop here. Please solve those. If you solve them and need any help, contact me. I am there for you every day. Every day. This is my office hours. It's open every day. Have a nice day.